Hey everyone, Larry Chen here. We're back in Japan. We are in Nara, which is outside of Osaka, at Garage Yoshida. I did an episode here before showcasing Mr. Yoshida and what he does to Skylines. Today's a really special day for me because we're gonna start my R34 restoration, and I'll take you guys along for the process. For the next few days, Mr. Yoshida and his team will take it completely apart, all the way down to a bare chassis, and he's even going to laser measure it to make sure it's up to factory specs. And if it's not, after 25 years of road wear and tear, he'll straighten it out to perfect factory spec, and then he's gonna strip all the paint down. He's going to rebuild it from the ground up, and it's essentially gonna be a brand new car. I'm really, really excited. Here he is. So you guys just saw Mr. Yoshida pull the car in from outside. I've never been a part of the process like this, to the point where it is a complete running, driving car. And then in one day, we'll see how far he can get. I'm assuming because he's done so many of these cars, it's gonna be really, really easy. I'm here for the ride. This is fade side blue, and this is Bayside blue. Once my car is done, it's gonna look like this. It's such a deep, rich blue, and on top of that, the bumper, the carbon materials, the fender, everything, it's all matching. And then when you look at my car, the newly painted over fenders are a lot deeper blue. This is a lot more faded. This pretty much has, I would say, 5 or 6 shades of blue. It just looks so different. Look, when you have both vehicles in the same frame, you can see the difference in color. It's 10:10 a.m. and we'll see how long it takes for him to get it down to a bare chassis. Oh. Just to give you guys an update, he's taken off the inside door panels, the front lip, the wheels. It's just getting on the lift, and he's starting to take off the inner fender liners. I just cannot believe how fast he is. It's very evident right away. He just knows every single tool for every single bolt or nut or screw or whatever. He just reaches for the tool like it's second nature. I can't imagine how many of these GT-Rs he's taken apart, but it's incredible to see in person. I know what you guys are wondering. Why even restore this particular car? Because realistically, it wasn't even that bad. It's accident free and it had all original paint. But of course, you have to remember, it was parked outside its entire life and the paint was very faded. The R34 has always been my dream car, specifically in this color. I've never had a chance to see a new one in a Nissan dealership. For me, it doesn't matter how much my car is worth at the end of the day, because it's something that I'm gonna keep for the rest of my life. The parts area is growing and growing. Pretty soon the entire car is just gonna be spread out all over this entire space. What's insane to me is how fast he is in that I literally have to time my shots, right? So if I see he's starting to take something off, I better get ready to get the shot of him taking it off, because if I blink, within 5 seconds, I'll miss something important, like the hood coming off or the fenders or the bumper. I'm just not slowing him down in any way, shape or form, because I really did want to see how fast he can do this, because we started at 10:10 a.m. It's only been 1 hour and it's not a running, driving car anymore. The doors are off. So much has been done already. The process is interesting to me because he knows all the tools. Every single tool that he uses to take apart the car is all laid out. Basically what he does is, once he takes it apart, He hands it to his wife, who places it carefully on the mat so everything is as organized as possible. Have you seen this before?
Just once. Just once.
It really is kind of incredible how fast he works.
One assistant.
Yeah, one assistant. It's amazing to me that he just hands this part off into the air and it gets grabbed out of his hand.
Yeah.
Once he takes it off.
It's like a surgery backwards.
Yeah.
Taking things off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, if you like what you're watching, do me a favor. Go check out the Hagerty Drivers Club. 24/7 roadside assistance with flatbed towing, subscription to our award-winning magazine, and more. Sign up today. Links in the description. So it's just a little after 12. I can't believe it's only been pretty much 2 hours and this is what we have left. Rear subframe is out. So much of the engine bay, a lot of the plumbing is out. But what's crazy to me is all the parts spread out here. Like, look at this. All the underbody stuff, lip, braces, all the body panels, all laid out, all the exhaust. Just 2 hours. I feel like it would have taken me 2 hours just to take the door panels off. That's crazy. I'm sorry I haven't been able to narrate as much because it's been going so fast. Mr. Yoshida wanted to get the engine out as well as the rear subframe before lunchtime. It's 12:50 right now. We started at 10:10 and the engine is completely out with the whole front driveline assembly. It's just so cool to see this process. There's no checklist or anything, it's all mental, and I just can't believe how fast he is. That's just really the difference. That's what makes it special. You know, if you specialize in something like this and you're not doing all different types of cars, you can spend your time and effort in learning this car. We're back from lunch, and this is what happens when I leave Mr. Yoshida for more than 2 minutes. He took off the steering wheel, but then I realized they took out the rear window and they also took out the windshield. We were literally just up there finishing our bento boxes. He came down before us, and I show up, and so much more progress has been done. It's really hard to keep up. It's kind of amazing. This would have been helpful a year ago. This is a brand new bottle of touch-up paint that was hidden in the trunk. After lunch, it's a lot slower. Now we're getting into interior work, which is something that you have to be careful about. These things are so fragile, and it's going to be really hard to get any of these replacement parts. So little by little, he's just taking out the interior pieces. Yoshida-san found something that he's never seen before. Apparently, this came with like a Nissan TV option for the multifunction display. That's why I had an official Nissan remote that was mounted to the shifter that let you change the channels and stuff so you can watch TV while you're driving. But I guess it was such a rare option that out of all of the cars that he's worked on, this is the first time he's ever seen this. It's really, really coming along now. Rear bumpers out, gas tanks out. It's just a few little things left, but of course it's still a lot. It's still incredible to me how many parts amount to an entire car. We did find a fun little Easter egg though, and it's something that I noticed right away. It looks like somebody had a sheet of paper here and they painted the car with the sheet of paper still attached. So it looks like it was taped up top. It makes me wonder if it had like a spec sheet or something. What a weird place for it. When Mr. Yoshida and his wife first started disassembling these cars, it took them both an entire month. The fact that they can do it in 6 hours means they pretty much got it down to an exact science. What a scene. This is crazy. Okay, so it's 5:40 p.m. and Yoshida-san is done. The car is completely stripped. This is 100% a bare chassis, minus just like little plastic bits that need to be taken out. But not that many more steps to go. It's really incredible. He was going for a bit of a record to see how fast he potentially could disassemble this vehicle. His record is 6 hours, but because there's so many little things on this that slowed him down, including all of the television wiring, there was just so much stuff in there that did slow him down, as well as little aftermarket bits here and there that needed to be taken out. Pretty crazy to see it in this condition. The fact that at 10 a.m. this morning, it was a running, functional car, and now it is just a bare chassis. So we have the gas tank here. Got all of the body panels on all of these racks. That's the carpet, taillights, seats, most of the interiors here. This is what's really crazy to me. The wiring harness, so heavy. All of it was taken out in one bundle. Just something else. I just cannot believe that all of this stuff in this whole area fits in that car, or at least was part of that car at one point. Absolutely ridiculous that he can do this in one day.
Nice ね、クリーンなもんですよ。
Good morning, guys. Day 2 of shooting here at Garage Yoshida with my R34. Yoshida-san is going to use this really cool measurement tool. That is so cool. So as he's moving the arm, it's measuring where it is in time space. Very cool. And then so all of this data, he's going to compare it with what the R34 should exactly be. And if it needs to be straightened at all, they straighten it here, because after 25 years of road wear and tear, 2 track days from myself at Fuji Speedway, who knows, maybe it's moved it a little bit, or it's deflected. Maybe it was parked in a funky way for a long time. Who knows? I don't know.
He was measuring this hole right here, and the screen tells you how much off he is vertically, horizontally, and then this the Z is the height. Z-axis is the height, and Nissan's tolerance is 3 millimeters. This car is good because it's in 1 millimeter, 1 millimeter, and 0. This is perfect.
Wow.
So this hole, this spot is good.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That's what the space.
And then the 1 millimeter could be...
Oh, it's this way or
right,
that way.
but it could be a variance in the drilling, or it could be...
Or, yeah, the whole
variance,
size.
Yeah, the whole
could
size.
Be.
and even maybe in the
Nissan's
measurement.
production cars are like made within 3 millimeters, so this is actually more narrower in a good sense.
Wow, that is really cool.
で、for example, フロントクラッシュで穴がずれたと想定してずれて測ってみますね。
He's just measuring like nowhere.
Right, right.
Let you see how it shows.
Got it. It's saying that it needs to
12
go.
ずれててこっちに修正しろよっていう状態です。
It's saying that it's 12 mil off, and you
have to push it out to that.
That is so cool.
It's pretty cool.
I've never seen this before.
See, yeah.
Yeah.
Now it
Okay.
says 12.
これやろ
え
What's crazy is that he remembers where all these are.
分かりにくい。アームを小さして。
This point got hit
Got
from
it from underneath.
underneath.
So
Okay.
it's just a little
Right.
pushed inside.
Got it.
で、5ミリ高いよって出てます。
So it measures 5 millimeters too high because it was
Hit.
just a tap.
Right.
It's not a major hit from underneath.
Maybe that's when I went off track. I don't know. I don't know.
これメンバーのボルト席やな。
Is that even worth for him to fix at that point?
No problem. いけた
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
ワンポイントやろ
Does that affect anything though? That makes me wonder.
?OK。
You know the place that was 5 millimeters off the tolerance. That hole is actually never used. There's no parts that's gonna go on there, so it doesn't really matter.
That's just part of the frame
Yeah.
that you potentially could put on a lift or something.
I guess so, but if it was these member bolts here, studs here, then it has to be accurate because a lot of the parts go on here. So any difference on here will.
Right. So like, if this is off at all, then
fix it for sure.
you have once the whole subframe goes on,
The
you have-
subframe is going to be off.
yeah, and then you have to change it in the alignment to
Yeah.
make it straight again.
Right.
Which is not the right thing to do. It's better to fix it on the chassis. So in a way, it's good that this is straight because it's less work. But even if it wasn't straight, he would be able to fix it anyways.
Yes.
Yeah. Mr. Yoshida wanted me to let you guys know if you want to get him to measure your car, that means he has to restore your car. He doesn't just do measurements in Japan. It just makes sense because if you buy a car that may not be straight and he measures it and he lets you know that it's not straight, he doesn't want you to just go to another shop to get it fixed. He wants to do it and he wants to do it properly. So I think that's very, very fair. I think that's awesome that he's doing this for the cars that he's restoring.
Your car's report card.
Right. Okay. So this is the report card.
R34.
And everything's okay except for this one point that's 5 mil off. It's just the frame. Oh, cool. Thank you. I did have noise coming from the engine after our last track day at Fuji Speedway, and I was assuming that it was an exhaust leak because I had the same thing on my R32 where some of the bolts from the downpipe loosened up, and that's from driving or whatever. I went off track at Fuji and I hit the rumble strips, and I assumed that I maybe tweaked the exhaust in some way and it made a funny noise because after Fuji I put almost 1,000 kilometers on it. It made that funny noise and sometimes it could come in and out, but when I dropped it off at Top Rank they said I potentially could have blown the motor. Since then it never ran at Redline. It's just moved around a little bit, And then Yoshida-san picked up the car with his own transporter just to keep kilometers off of it, just to make sure that it didn't get any more damaged. So then we just took off the oil filter and inspected it, and there were like tiny couple micro pieces of metal, but nothing to be alarmed about, nothing like it was a completely blown motor. I think the telltale sign for me for it being okay still is the fact that I drove it so much. We did like a whole video with the Kaido racers. We followed them around for like 3 hours all over Tokyo, and it made power. It made power up until the point I dropped it off. So I was assuming that it wasn't hurt. Of course, what Yoshida-san will do is he'll take it apart completely, and then we'll be able to inspect the bearings and everything to make sure that it's not blown. I don't think it's blown because, like I said, it makes the power, and then there was no metal. Just like tiny, maybe like 3 or 4 pieces that we found that are just like small that, I don't know. He wasn't alarmed about it. He said it's normal. I don't know. But from what I could tell, he's saying that he's seen oil filters with blown motors. As soon as it blows, the whole filter is just completely caked with metal. Since this filming, we diagnosed the engine issue, and it turns out that I was probably 5 minutes away from completely destroying the engine because the timing belt tensioner completely disintegrated. It almost turned into a pachinko machine. I'm gonna take an educated guess and attribute the failure to all that redlining I did at Fuji Speedway. So right now what he's gonna do is he's gonna drill out all of the spot welds for the top cowl piece here, as well as both shock towers. And the reason why it rusts here is because if you look underneath here, this is where the top control arm is. The tire gets wet when it's raining, and it shoots water, salt water, road debris, everything into these cracks all through here along the shock tower, which rusts it from the inside out. So you can see a little bit of surface rust here. We don't know how bad it is underneath until he takes this out. But what he's done is he's created his own, because Nissan, for whatever reason, they haven't produced their own. He produces his own, and it has way more welds, and it's completely sealed, so it's way stronger than stock. So then after all said and done, my car is going to look like this. So this is his own Garage Yoshida shock tower, and then this is his own designed piece, which is the cowl cover. More spot welds, a lot stronger, better sealing. This is a Nissan OEM piece that they still sell, which is really nice. And then he's just gonna add a lot more welds to it. The bracing is even better than stock, so it's gonna be stronger than stock, and it's gonna last the lifetime of the car. He sells them all over the world to all different shops, but his specialty is doing it here in Japan at his shop. Look how many shock towers are here. This is potentially what mine's gonna look like, where the outside doesn't look too bad, but look what it looks like underneath. That is a rusty mess. This one's not even that bad. Look at this one. This one is so bad. So it's really interesting to see the variance and the difference. Some of them, you know, maybe they weren't driven in the rain that much and they're fine, but some of them are just really bad. So it's really cool to see that he's able to produce these for this niche, and there's a very good reason why these are useful. When I posted us uncovering all this rust on social media, I got a lot of comments from people getting upset at me for exposing this inherent problem with the R34. I have a couple thoughts on this. If I wasn't the one to expose this, someone else eventually will. And also, there's a big reason why Garage Yoshida is doing so well right now. They've sold hundreds of these replacement panels all over the world. It's because it is well known in certain circles. Also, most performance cars have some sort of quirky things that need fixing only after a couple years of use. As new cars, they're fine. But for example, the BMW E92 engine needs bearing work. The FD RX-7 apex seals always go out. These are all pretty much common things that us car individuals know about, and it's something that you address as soon as you purchase one of these vehicles as a used car. Whoa. Look at all that rust underneath, huh? At the end of the 2 days, Mr. Yoshida said out of all the R34s he has restored so far, this had the least amount of rust. If you guys are wondering, the cost for this restoration is 12 million yen, which at the time of recording equals out to $76,600. The yen is super weak and people like myself are taking advantage of it. Just a side note, the engine rebuild will be an additional cost. 25 years of road grime, dirt, water, dust. Just taking the fender off revealed a lot of this. Like you could see it was dripping rust. Part of it is because this is not sealed at all. That's how the water gets in there. So he's gonna take this off. He's gonna take this off and this. Wow. It's amazing to me that it didn't look that bad on the outside. There was just a little bit of surface rust here. But once you take this panel off, it's just very evident that it's such a bad design. But you know, at the time, Nissan engineers, how would they know? 25 years later, that's what it looks like. Okay, so this is the new redesigned panel that is going to be welded on to this section here. So check it out, guys. How cool is that? It's crazy that Nissan doesn't offer this anymore because there's so many of these vehicles that need this help. Especially because my car wasn't even that rusty. I mean, you guys could see the rest of it. The rockers underneath it is all clean. This is the only part of the car that has any rust at all, and it's not due to driving in the salt or anything like that, just due to the design of the vehicle. Because you look at the rest of the vehicle, look how clean it is. The trunk area, all of it, the bumper support, all the suspension bits, you can see underneath the car is so clean inside out. Whoever had this vehicle before me really took care of it. So here's the rusty stock pieces. Here's some new pieces from Nissan that will be welded on. Yoshida-san pretty much has this shock tower prep to come off, but before he takes it off, in order for the vehicle to be in as straight, perfect form as possible, what he's going to do is he's going to take the jig and he's going to attach it to the chassis, or put the chassis on the jig, so there's no diversion, there's no movement at all, because this is so structural that if you take it out without any support, there's a potential for it to sag a little bit, and then when you put the new one on, it's just not going to be as perfect as before. In order for Yoshida-san to keep it as straight as possible, the use of the jig is really important. So then that way he can bang away at it as hard as he needs to get the panel perfect, and then there's no worry that anything else will get deflected at all, which is super cool. Like, I just love seeing all the tools that he's using to his disposal to make sure this vehicle is as perfect as possible. And all the full restorations that he does, whether it be just resto all the way to stock GT-R, or if it's like a Built by Legends vehicle, which is a resto mod, he'll put this same process in just to make sure it's going to last another lifetime. And then so here comes the jig. I see that it's very heavy, but I'm filming, so I can't help them move it. See, so now the Built by Legends crew, Katsu and Masa, are helping with the build. Thank you, guys. While he's doing the bodywork and replacement panels, it's going to live on this jig. Once all of this stuff is done, then he can take it off the jig. Oh, so that's what I was wondering. So I was wondering how he knows it's in the right spot. I was wondering if there was some kind of like measurement tool that he can use. But what he's using is this jig. This is going to be guiding the new panel to be in the exact same place, because if it's incorrect, then these pins aren't able to move. But right now there's play in these pins. If there's stress on any of these jig points, then that means it's not it's too much stress on the chassis. So right now the way it sits, because it's so straight, every one of the pins move. That's so cool. So once he does knock this one out completely to replace it with the new one, there's an exact point where the new one needs to sit, and then he can weld it all in, or he could do his spot welds, and then this jig will hold it in place. That is really neat. What's cool about this jig also is it's replicating the control arm, the upper control arm. It's not just replicating the height or in terms of where it's supposed to be. There's also another access for it to make sure there's no deflection this way or that way. So much work. Oh, surprise. See, even if it looks okay from the outside, there's still rust on the inside. This is honestly the worst place for rust if you're pushing hard on track. Look at that. That is so crazy, huh? So then let's compare this to the new one, right? So the new one is made of different steel. It's a high tensile steel, and they dip this just like they dip the chassis for rust prevention. It has more spot welds. It's basically just the updated design versus the old shock tower. But it's just crazy to me that they sealed this, but it doesn't matter because the water didn't go in from this side. The water came in from the other side and all the other cracks that weren't sealed. So then once this goes back on, every single seam is going to be sealed. That way it doesn't happen again. And then this will just be as resilient as the rest of the chassis where there is sealed. Like, look at this. All of these other areas along the frame rails, sealed. But I don't know why they thought it would be a good idea to not seal the inside here. From what Mr. Yoshida was thinking, after seeing the evidence of how much rust there is underneath the brace on the fender area, he's thinking that the car's just was sitting outside for the longest time, and it was because it is faded, hence why we call it fade side blue, and that's also why it needs the restoration. But yeah, the shock tower itself isn't that bad, which is cool, which is good to know. But all good news today, right? Last thing, Yoshida-san is going to put on the new shock tower, not weld it in completely, just tack it in place and fit it so we can see what it looks like. Once the paint is dried here, then he'll put that on and we'll at least get to see what it looks like compared to the stock one. I've always known that the R34 doesn't compare to modern cars in terms of performance, but as you guys know, it's not about that. It's about the aura the car has, the lore, the way it looks. For me, it's the perfect car. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Capturing Car Culture. It's a little different. Next time, we'll show you the painting and rebuilding process. You'll also see me drive the car for the very first time after the rebuild.